Hello everybody. So today we're going to be tying a classic dry fly, the Adams dry fly. We're going to be using UTC 70 denier thread in black. And then as for the hook, we're going to be using a Daiichi number 1170 dry fly, which 1170 just means it is the standard dry fly. There we go, we've got that queued up in our vise. And what we're going to first do is we're going to take and start right about there. We want to position it so we can tie in our wings, just like that. You don't need to go all the way back yet. You want to come back up right about to there. So you want to come back about halfway point to the hook, come a little forward just a little tiny bit, and then we're going to be getting our wing positioning ready. Cut off our tag end. Now what I like to do is on a cape such as this, I like to take and I will bring it forward, bend it forward so I can get to these smaller ones, and I will select two of these smaller tips to use as my wings, because I don't like to waste the tips on larger hackles. All of a sudden, it looking better. Now you have two of them, looks like that, just like that. You're going to take and you're going to tie them shiny side down, just like that. And the way you measure them is you're going to look, those will be about right the way they bend upwards. Tie it one loose wrap just like this. There we go. And as you can see, we're just going to let our bobbin hang. Pull these up just a little bit. There we go. Now we're going to tie back just a little bit to get those secured. Bring them to the top, bend them back, and as you can see, two good looking wings, which is good. Now we're going to tie those, then we're going to cut them off right here. You will have a little bit of waste, but you can minimize it if you know how much you're going to be using. There we go. Now we're going to come back forward just like so. Very careful not to compress those down too much. Bring them back, tie right in front of them just like that, and then once behind as to bend them back upwards. Now these don't have to sit straight up. I like them to, but you can have them on a little bit of an angle, however you like them best. There we go. Looks good. So basically what you're doing is you're doing the same way you tied in the wings for the Coachman, or the Royal Coachman rather, and you're actually just doing it with grizzly hackle rather than white hackle tips. So just like that, we have that ready to go. Do a little bit of cleanup on the hook eye before we get too deep into this. And when I say this is a simple dry fly, I mean it is very simple. It's the hardest part is probably the wings, and you don't have to do those. Those are actually optional. Okay, now right here I have a dubbing box, as you can see, and we are going to be using the Adams Gray, which is right there. And I like to use Adams Gray just because it's a synthetic rather than a natural, and it's a little bit easier to work with on smaller patterns. I will use natural on some larger patterns, but I like the way that the fibers are nice and long on this. Now we're going to get that queued up on the back end of this. We're not tying with it yet. Now you want to select two of the larger hackle feathers, one brown and one grizzly. As you can see here, I've got one brown, one grizzly. You're going to grab the longer fibers from the back end that are still maintaining their good color. So you want to get a good chunk of brown, a good chunk of grizzly. So right like, there we go. And you want to make sure that you don't overpower your pattern with your tail, because you don't want to draw too much attention to it or counteract the weight of your tail. Alright, so just like this, you want to mix them together. So you're going to have something that looks a little bit along the lines of that. Oops, there we go, that. And I actually want to get just a little tiny bit. No, that's actually about right. I like that. Looks good. You're going to even those up just a little bit. Perfect. Now you're going to measure hook shank, and I always like to do just a little bit less than a hook shank, because a hook shank is a little bit much for me. There we go. Let me tie that in. And putting the dubbing on before you tie it in is optional. I just did it because I wanted to have it on there and ready to go. Okay, just like that, we have our nice little slender tail. We're going to now bring up our dubbing, just like so, and begin wrapping forward. And I'm not clipping that off yet just because I'm not to it, so it's not that big of a concern to me. There we go. Clip that off now, just like so. There we go. And make sure that when you're wrapping, you want to keep, so it's got a slender end right here, and it starts to beef up in the middle, and then go back down right about there. Now we have our good amount of dubbing. We can actually pull a little bit off, or snip it either way. You just want to make sure you keep just enough that you can finish it off. So right there. As you can see, we get that little fluff there. We're actually going to wrap backwards just so that we get a hook on that with our thread. And then you pull down just a little bit, get it recentered on our thread. The easier way to do this is know exactly how much you're going to need, but I'm really bad at that. I always just use a little bit extra and then make multiple patterns with it. Okay, so just like that, we've got it recentered on our thread. Tighten up our thread just a little tiny bit. And an easy way to do this to make it a little bit easier, if you're having a hard time restarting it like we are here because it's a little bit shorter, you can add just a little tiny bit, just enough to make it your thread a different color, basically. And you do a couple wraps, bring that up, do a couple wraps, just like so, and then you just trim off the little bit of fluff that is there, just like so. Okay, pull off that little excess right here, and trim that little excess right there. Alright, perfect. Now we want to have a nice strong base right behind our wings, just like so. Bend those up. Then you want to tie in front of the eye just a little bit, or in front of the wings just a little bit. Okay, now as you can see here, we're going to have the wings and we're going to have the body looking really nice. Now this is the most difficult part next to the wings, I would argue. You're going to take and you're going to select two specifically sized feathers. I've got these one sized to this hook size I'm using, which is a size 14. You can eyeball it or you can actually use a hackle gauge to determine it. I have done both. And you're going to even them up so they're both even together, just like that. You're going to cut off the thicker ends, like so. Then you're going to strip just a little bit so that you have bare ends, like so, just like that. And you're going to tie them in straight up and down. You can do them on a little bit of an angle, or you can do them straight up and down. I like tying straight up and down and then angle them just a little bit. So as you can see, we got them in straight up and down, angle it just a little bit. Then I like to go in front, not tripping those off yet. Now I'll trim them off, but I've got them secured very well, and I'm confident in my securing of them. There we go. Put that up just a little bit. Okay. Now hackle pliers are something I usually love to use on these kind of patterns, but with this, it's a little bit difficult to wrap it as you're doing two, and you don't want to get twisted. So you can do a little bit behind here, just like so. Oops. I'm actually going to grab, I have a specific set of rotary hackle pliers that will work for this, which are right here. But if you're using just a generic pair of hackle pliers, they will have difficulties, as you're going to have to be very careful not to twist these together. There we go. Hook those right like so. And we begin doing wraps just like so. I like to do a couple behind, just like that, and then a couple in front, just like that. We try not to lay those wings back. That hackle out of the way so we can get a nice fluff on it. There we go. Uno more. And then we're going to choke up on our thread, a couple wraps for the eye. And then I always recommend that when you do your capturing wrap, you go straight up and down rather than trying to come out. So you choke it up, come straight up and down like that, straight around the eye. And that is secured to the point where I am comfortable with it. So what we're going to do, trim it right there, blow on it just a little bit. Now for this, I'm actually going to use my bodkin that has a little bit of a half hitch tool on it, because I want to keep that hackle from getting compressed as much as possible. So we're going to push that back just a little bit, drop that on, and as you can see, it clears up our hook eye quite a bit, brings it down. And if you do want to do a half hitch and you don't have a tool for it, you take your finger, wrap it around like this, bring it once up and over. I'll actually zoom out a little bit to show you. If you want to use your finger, you take your finger, grab it like this, wrap your bobbin straight up like that, so you have just a wrap like that. Put your finger here, loosen up on your tension of your thread, and just bring it forward just a little bit, just like so. And there you have one half hitch. Now I'm not going to do any whip finishes on this because the 3 half hitches we did on there are good enough in my opinion. I'm going to trim our thread right there on the bottom, like so. Grab our head cement, which I'm actually just using nail polish in a applicator bottle. I'm going to take and do it just a little bit on top. I like to make sure I can get flow before it comes to, because I don't want to over saturate it. And just like that. A little bit more on the bottom side. There we go. Because when we're doing half hitches or any type of finish on the head, we want to make sure that we actually coat it with some head cement where we finished off, because if you don't, you're just going to have a strong fly, you're not going to have a mighty fly. Now just like that, we have our finished product, the Adams, which is a very, very common dry fly to have, but it is common for a reason. It is very, very versatile, it is very, very easy to tie, and it is very, very fun to fish. There we go. So thank you for watching. If you do have any recommendations you'd like to put in the comments down below, I'd much appreciate it. And then if you would like to leave a like and subscribe, that would be much appreciated as well. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.